Today, I'm going to talk to you about dividing property when someone passes away. Hi, I'm Claire Yanowitz at the Yanowitz law firm, where we help clients with wills, trusts, and probate, help people protect what matters most. Let's get started. So oftentimes when I meet with clients, people have a misconception that when someone dies, everybody has to kind of like jointly own all the property at death. Or another misconception that I see that people have is that people think that they have to indicate in their will or trust for every single piece of property at death how it's going to be divided. And that's not true either. So oftentimes when someone dies, they have what's called a residuary in their will or trust. And that just basically means who gets property that isn't specified to go to anyone. And oftentimes this is 100% of the property. We don't specify that property is going to anyone. We just specify what share of the total property everybody's getting. Okay, so you have 3 kids at your death. Each is going to get a value that is equivalent in thirds, okay? And I think that property can be handled by its category. So first, tangible personal property. The children will have to decide how is that going to be divided. And generally, that passes into 3 different classifications. First classification is, property that people want. And so, we encourage our clients to write down on memorandums if you want a particular property to go to a particular child or person, to indicate that. But if it's not indicated on the memorandum, our wills or trusts basically have a rotating system where the children are able to take turns picking what type of property they want and making sure that that property is approximately equivalent in value. So first category is household possessions that people want. Second category is household possessions that people don't want, but have value, can be sold at an estate sale or sold to a business. So this is like the jewelry that maybe people don't want, or maybe valuable artwork, things like that can be sold. The third category is things that can be donated, like maybe used clothing that nobody needs. And then the final category is property that has to be trashed. And so this would be like your toothbrush or, things like that where nobody else is going to take them. So that's how household possessions can be handled. Another category of property that gets divided pretty easily at death is a bank account or cash accounts. Those are easy to divide. It's easy to just dice it up into thirds. Or somebody, if like there's real estate in an estate, so maybe one child decides they're going to take the home, then maybe another child gets a greater share of the bank account so that they get property that's equivalent in value, but isn't the same property. One kid walks away with the house, the other one walks away with more liquid cash. Another type of property that has to be divided when someone dies is brokerage accounts. And when someone dies, you get what's called a step up in basis at death. So the new basis in brokerage accounts at death becomes what they're worth at death. So if they're sold shortly after someone dies, there usually isn't much capital gains tax to pay on that sale because it gets this new basis adjustment at death. So that's something to know. So when trying to divide up brokerage accounts, they can be transferred in 2 different ways. First, you can sell them and then distribute cash. That's an easy way to handle it. Or alternatively, you can actually distribute the shares owned to the children and they can sell it themselves. Let's say you own, 10 shares of stock. That stock does not get sold. It just gets transferred to your son at your death. Now, if for some reason there is a lot of appreciation in a brokerage account between death and the time it's distributed, that means that child that receives that brokerage account, they're getting this embedded income tax on what they received, because when they have to sell that account in the future, they're going to pay capital gains tax. So let's say they get $100 in stock. They don't actually get $100 because if the basis is 80, when they sell it, they're going to have to pay some tax on that. So they don't get the full 100. They have this embedded income tax. So from a fairness standpoint, if somebody walks away with stock and somebody walks away with cash, that's something to consider if there is this appreciation aspect to the stock, because that child might be getting less. So when you get really into the weeds, you can examine that if the stock has appreciated a lot and determine whether it makes sense to essentially divide the stock fairly. So, you have 9 shares of stock. Each kid walks away with 3 shares of that stock. So they're each getting equivalent income tax liability. So that's something else to know. As far as real estate goes, that the family has to decide, are we going to keep this property? Are we going to sell this property? If we keep it, are all the children going to co-own it? Or is only one kid going to co-own it? So then the other kids get more liquid assets. So that kind of all needs to be decided regarding real estate. Sometimes when children all decide to co-own the piece of real estate after maybe parents pass away, they might decide to put it at that point into an LLC. So the real estate, the cabin is owned by an LLC, and they are all partners of the LLC. And people will do this for liability purposes in the event, something happens in the cabin, and it can act as protection so that, that bad thing that happens with the cabin stays with the LLC, or something alternatively happens in the personal life of one of the members of the LLC, like a child gets divorced, the LLC can act as some protection in the event of divorce or having some various different creditor issues that child may have. So that's something to think about if the children do decide to co-own a piece of real estate going forward in the future after parents die. Well, thank you so much for your attention. If you liked this movie today or know of someone who this video might be helpful to, feel free to send this video along to them, and hit our subscribe button so that you can learn more about estate planning. Thanks so much.